I didn't get a chance to see that video, by the way, that you sent me. I do have it though on IG.
Oh yeah.
Oh, dope.
Glenn
Yes.
had been posting it a lot, but I thought that because of like when we started the series, we didn't have videos of people being murdered for running and just like the stuff that's happening because of like the response to coronavirus and wanting to make sure that people are being in compliance with social distancing. We didn't know that there was going to be an overrepresentation of our communities, the communities of color. So like when that started happening, you silent now. I figured that we should probably play the video because I'm a community organizer, so people are expecting a response from me. And I've always depended on music to protect me and to help me communicate. So I'm like, okay, we have, hip hop in the house. You here, and then Mike Crenshaw later on. If I don't touch on these points, then, I'm defuncting my business as far as my connection. So
Yeah. Yeah. For a second, you cut out. The audio did.
okay,
Okay, I hope we're doing better now. All right, we are live.
yay.
Yay, awesome, cool. What's up, everybody?
Should you stay on? Okay, well, you gotta do
Yeah,
both.
we can do both.
Okay, cool. So
I'm trying to get no
are we loud enough and everything else?
I can hear you good.
All right, cool. So how you gonna start everything?
Yeah, let me it won't let me play No Justice, No Peace.
Oh, we're gonna start off with the music.
Yeah, do you want to, like, we should start off with music?
Yeah. So I think it's about going back to Zoom and then sharing your screen.
Let me see. I'm trying to get No Justice, No Peace up. I'm sorry. It's like through QuickTime and it's not. Where's No Justice? No, over because they're in Anna's. I gotta forward it. Okay. All right, y'all talk for a little bit.
So yeah, we'll talk for a little bit. You can't see our screen or anything, right? We're still doing what we need to do.
No, I just see
are we still on YouTube? Can you see both screens?
me. I can just see you guys.
Okay.
That's perfect. Yeah.
But we're still on YouTube. You didn't kill it?
No, we're on YouTube.
All right, right on. Okay, so thank you. I guess Ty's supposed to be introducing you, and we're gonna play one of your videos. But Zito, one of the things that I've been doing, my name is Teressa Rayford. If your viewers don't know, Ty, there's some. Oh, okay. If your viewers don't know, my name is Teressa Rayford. I'm running for mayor. She's trying to pull your video up, which Ty is my communications director. But I just want to ask you, like, what matters to you? Our campaign put out a survey like 18 months ago, and we've been asking Portlanders what's important to them. And as somebody that's in the community and that's from Portland, I'm curious to hear that from people. And with coronavirus, it's hard to get the information. So before we get into the music, let's get to know each other and find out like what's important to you.
For sure. Are you talking about important to me, like as in politics, local politics?
Everything is political. I grew up, I'll be 50 years old this year, right? So when, like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and people like that started talking about the message and the condition of our society at the time, for me, that was like a confirmation of my system and what we were dealing with. And we realized that all those things were political because we talked about the disadvantage of living in poverty and not having food and money, stealing, going to jail, becoming all these different things that are happening to us and not having that American dream. And for me and my generation at that time, we didn't just have like Basquiat and everybody else out there painting and doing graffiti and making designs and trying to share the consciousness. We were living what they were communicating. So like even with this series, your art and the art of all the people connected is communicating our current situation. That's political. Right. When we talk about hip hop is hip politics.
Right.
You had Grandmaster Jay and everybody else doing that, and it was so that we could get a better situation. So what do you think needs to be done here in our Portland? What's important to you? It doesn't,
Well, my first thing is transparency with the government and its people. A lot of times I feel like we've gone into the social acceptance where the government no longer works for the people. They're their own entity, and we almost have to answer to them. And that's not how it should be, I feel like. And it doesn't feel like that anymore. I think we need to go back to the government needs to be for the people, make the decisions for the people. So transparency, because there's a lot of even bills that get passed through, and they'll present the main intention of the bill, but then there'll be a Trojan horse in it that benefits a select few, and they don't talk about that. There's a lot of stuff like that. So transparency is a big one for me. Um, the reallocation of funds and taxes and stuff to once again go back to benefiting the people. It's not necessarily the case. You know what I mean? It goes into benefit a select few or benefit companies or, you know, because a lot of money gets taken out of social programs and what have you and goes towards other things that don't really matter to the people. So there's that. I can go on for days. We can start there.
I mean, the inequities is a big deal because right now with COVID-19, people are saying that the inequities that people that live in poverty have experienced, that they're being exaggerated. And I'm like, no, they're not being exaggerated. They're being highlighted because those things have been happening forever. And even before Donald Trump, like we knew America was on the course of like managing to build a state, centered society.
Yeah,
And people are always going to resist when their humanity is being resisted. So
yeah,
the fact that right now we're in a pandemic and people are able to highlight those disadvantages and those inequities,
yeah.
I think it's the most important time right now for us to be engaged with politics because we want to know, like you said, transparency. We want to know what we're being told. Is that a benefit to us? How do we engage in that? How do we share that information with other people? Can we trust the people that are giving us information? Where are they getting their information from? And
Exactly.
sometimes it seems like it's a lot of work. But
Mhm.
again, in the dynamics of art, oops, again, in the dynamics of art, we've been able to see things that we might not hear. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like sometimes we might feel a certain way, but when we have people like yourself that are able to share and communicate to people through their art and that foundation of innovative and creative empathy, uh,
Mhm.
it helps sound alarms because you're in your car and you're thinking like, damn, something like that happened to me today. And
Right.
somebody is relating that to me. And so
Right.
I'm not the only one that's concerned about that, So
Yeah.
with politics for me, it's being concerned and wanting to attribute something that will make a difference.
Mhm. Mhm. Good. Perfect. Yeah. I felt that. Yeah, no, and I think why when you have a lack of transparency too, it's detrimental because we have social media, and if people don't fully understand what's going on, they jump to conclusions, and so all you do is have people just coming up with theories of what's going on and fighting over that instead of having an actual dialogue that can move us forward. It's
Yeah.
like this argument that just puts us in a perpetuated circle of nonsense. What's real and what's not. So instead of spending hours trying to figure out what's actual facts, we can't move forward. So, you know what I mean? Am I making sense? Because it's
Now
hard to,
you are making sense.
yeah. So
It's like,
that's why transparency is important because it causes that's the side effect of
Oh,
not being
absolutely.
transparent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and I was telling someone recently, just voting and
Mhm.
reading the measures and making sure that you're doing research when you vote
Yeah.
is a whole task in itself. Like you have to set aside time to not only read your voter's pamphlet, but to look at what this person recently voted for. They
Yeah.
might be saying anything during an election year because guess what? They want your vote. They'll say anything. Like I
yeah,
didn't realize as someone that's coming through I haven't had like any political background. I'm not really, I always vote because I believe in utilizing that right. I'm not
Mhm.
that pessimistic about the state of things,
Yeah.
but I never realized how much it matters to research before because as you
Right.
can see, if you've been getting mailers lately, Ted Wheeler straight up
oh,
lied and said that he was endorsed by like two or three people, like three major Portland entities, and those people have to come out immediately and say, whoa, disclaimer, I did not do that. I did not give him my logo. And it doesn't matter because how many people are going to get that piece of paper and be like, oh, well,
Hey,
person
that
supports.
that's real. That goes me to my second point is accountability.
Yeah.
Accountability doesn't exist, and so people like Ted Wheeler can just talk out their ass, excuse me, and
yeah,
have no consequences. The president of the United States can just say whatever he wants, no consequences.
Hmm.
Police can do whatever they want, no consequences. And that's another major part is there's no accountability for people that essentially are supposed to be working for the people. We
Hmm.
should be able to hold them accountable. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And there's none.
They
There's no
usually,
system supporting the people that allow us to do that.
yeah. What does
All
that
we
look
do is
like
make
to you though?
noise. but that doesn't do much sometimes.
Yep. I mean, well, you see, like when Colin Kaepernick started the Know Your Rights.
Mhm.
For me, that agenda meant more than just knowing your immediate rights for when you connect with law enforcement. It meant like know your rights as a citizen, as a
Yeah.
resident, as a person, as a human in
Mhm.
society, so that when things do happen to you, you're able to utilize enforcement systems to support you, gaining access through the bureaucracy, because a lot of systems that are in alignment with creating barriers for us to have accountability are also intentionally oppressive, because they don't want our engagement. They don't want you to have access to holding somebody accountable or demanding transparency. They want you to feel comforted in the fact that somebody that that we've all deemed trustworthy has our best interests in hand. But what we're learning right now with the dynamics of social media and the engagement of communities is that you could have somebody living right next to you that's living in terror. You
Mhm.
could have somebody that goes to school with your child whose family is being traumatized or terrorized by, like, ICE or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you're realizing, like, that's within my family, because we have that proximity to people.
Right.
And that relativity should be on the front of every leader's thought process and guidance of properly securing their communities.
Yeah.
But if we don't know that that's where they're supposed to be accountable to us, then we don't know how to hold that. We can't enforce it. We just say, oh, well, that's unfortunate. And
Yeah.
we have to get past saying that things are unfortunate. One of the things that I had started with my campaign was that the general public needs to become politically active, because it will save our lives.
Mhm.
Like, you don't realize how much power you have. You, like, literally yourself personally, how
Mhm.
much power you have. And I hope that you realize that. And I hope that the people that are tuning in get that. But Ty's hitting me. I guess she's going to play your video, and I'm excited. Thank you.
Well, we're gonna play the video at the end,
And
but first we're gonna start out with "No Justice, No Peace."
Okay.
That's
Oh,
all right.
yeah.
All right, and let us know, like, is this a newer track? I know "Dear Rose" is a.
No Justice, No Peace is an unreleased record. We're gonna do a video to it, but it's a song featuring Aaron O'Brien. He's the guy singing on the chorus, and then Vocab, which is on the third verse. We're basically just speaking on police brutality and the interaction with them in our communities, and how it doesn't mesh well at all. You know what I mean, on every level. So
All right, cool. We're gonna play this track real quick. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your music.
Thank you.
Sound good?
No justice, no peace, no trust, no ends of unity. These revenue collectors are reckless in our community. Cowards disrespect us and shoot us up with impunity. Way before the body cams, this shit is nothing new, you see. Cops brutally murder civilians inexcusably. Kaepernick took a knee while he was placed under scrutiny. Don't try to justify this lunacy. Killers on vacation while another mother's reading off a eulogy. 2 years was a child. Philando had the right to carry. If a piggy violate my rights, a pussy Mike and Gary. All they gotta say was they was frightened. No indictment. They murder way more Americans than ISIS with a license to kill. These cops never thinking twice when they bill. Assuming every black man don't kill and spend his life in the field. Now every time I see them lights, I get chills. Cause I don't know if they gon' protect and take a life of the scale for real. Man in the mirror, help me see it. All about awareness and no need to fear. If you got it, better learn about it before you judge it. Witness of believer turning nothing into something. We'll turn the heat up in them. Follow the leaders either. Way that they treat our people. We gotta keep it equal. We'll never see the sequel. Only one life we're living. We gotta make decisions. Losing it over. The cops defending the crooked, I guess they all rotten, plotting to lock you in a system, wishing you'll be forgotten. The media portrays these victims with a thug persona. Cops hug the corner, planting drugs so they can nudge the quota. These elitists gon' feed us the private prisons, take your freedoms, they gon' teach them to see us as opposition. They locked and loaded, but never stop and listen. Hard to say, optimistic, we got the vision, they'll never stop the mission. These are public servants so fucking nervous, they don't serve us, they just murder the public like we insurgents. While Fox got the nerve to urge the world that they deserved it. I guess they want to see us start purging. Off the perception of false aggression, we falling from misdirection. History repeats, we never learn a lesson. How do I tell my son about the cops who look quite like me? That they might think that he a crook cause he ain't white like me. Damn. Man in the mirror, help me see clear. All about awareness ain't no need to fear. Give me data, learn about it before you judge it. Goodness of believers, turning nothing into something. Who turn the heat up in it? Follow the leaders, you know. We never treat our people. We gotta keep it equal. We'll never see the sequel. Only one life for living. We gotta make decisions. Live it over. You won't be calling your pops. Have them out here dragging you off the block. Better that than the police blasting you out your socks. Or maybe just beating your ass up until you drop. While your people standing around with them cameras out and just watch. That's our generation. I need some medication and plans for a better nation. So we can roam free of the shackles of segregation. Separate races and separate places ever since slave ships. Why you bringing up the past? Homie, this today shit. The foundation. Why you think the fucking ground's breaking? Now we can fix it. Or keep debating its existence. Either way, we're the ones paying the consequences for our past. There's no escaping it. How can we get away from it when half of the country is still embracing it? Or so it seems. What the fuck you think make it great again means? Yeah, that I mean. I'm out. All about awareness ain't no need to fear. Give me data, learn about it before you judge it. Goodness of believer, turning nothing into something. Who turn the heat up in it? Follow the leaders, see the way that they treat our people. We gotta keep it equal. We'll never see the sequel. Only one life for living. We gotta make decisions. Losing it over winning.
Hey, you killed that with the sign language, bro.
Ryan.
Chill out.
Hey.
Awesome. Thank you. That was so dope. That was dope.
And Andrew, how did you feel watching Andrew perform your track?
Hey, that's cool. See somebody do sign language like that with passion. That's dope.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
That's performance.
Mhm.
That's performance. Oh God, thank you. So Ty's the musical genius here.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I thought that was a dope song. Thank you for sharing it with us. I love that it combined I feel like several different genres. Really, like that's a bop. And you
Thank
said
you.
it's unreleased?
Yeah, it's not released yet. I'm gonna release it with a visual because I think it's gonna be more impactful to have a visual with it at the same time.
Nice.
Absolutely. And tell us what was going through your mind. Like, was that after a certain event or something obviously that happened that was, struck you personally? Like, you
Yeah,
went
I can't see y'all by the way. If you want to switch over,
Oh, yes. Oh, Ty.
I can hear you though. You good? I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you see us now?
Nah, you're on. I'm on the
Oh, you
interpreter.
got Andrew on.
Yeah, I got Andrew on my screen.
You gotta put back gallery.
Oh.
It's on the other
We're
one.
all no.
Oh.
Better?
No, I still
Nope.
got. Oh, there you go. I see you. There you go. Hey.
Okay, hey.
This is a delay, remember?
Okay. Oh, it's on delay. Okay.
My
So
bad.
what were you saying, Ty?
No, I was just saying
Yeah.
that song is obviously
We was over here crying. That's why we didn't want to be on
she
camera.
she feels so strongly about, just this is her life's
Oh.
work. So that song kind of like struck some chords. But tell us about like what inspired it. Like, what do you feel?
It wasn't one situation that inspired it. It was, it's my whole life. Growing up in the areas that I grew up around, I just seen it. A bunch of police that aren't from the neighborhood patrolling the neighborhood and don't identify with the people, and are scared. They're scared, and so they respond in such ways. I didn't really write the record until my son. My son is he's 8 years old, but at the time he was like 5 years old. And like a lot of young boys, they want to be cops and firefighters and ninjas, all that kind of stuff. But his passion for wanting to be a cop was immediately destroyed. Just even seeing firsthand his interaction with me and the police, me getting pulled over and harassed and all that stuff. And like I said, I'm not even necessarily a marginalized group of people. I'm a white male, And I still, if I had to deal with it, imagine what, and my son, by the way, he's black. So he, I have to teach him these things. And it's a unique perspective being a white father to have to explain that, systematic racism and what he's going to have to deal with by the police, something he wanted to be. And he doesn't even want to be one anymore just from what he's seen already at the age of 8 years old.
Wow.
I mean, and so it's like, I feel like I had a perspective that was probably a little bit unique because of my situation, and try to give that perspective as well. And on top of the fact that, I feel like being an ally is strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to necessarily be a person of color to speak out against it, and
Straight up.
not only be an ally, but to be like an outspoken ally. Not a passive enemy, but somebody that's like using your platform and spotlighting this. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say Portland is a very unique place. Were you born and raised or?
I've lived all over the place, but yeah, I rep Portland. I've been here most of my life.
Yeah, I was gonna say like everything I looked up, Portland, like you're you're repping Portland all day. So I'm like, it doesn't matter if you're from here or not. Like you obviously, yeah, like it doesn't even matter, whatever. Yeah, like I could tell you're repping the love, and I appreciate that because Portland is a beautiful city, and I feel like some people will never understand unless you live here because it is a unique perspective.
Yeah.
Not only being from Portland, but living here every day.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't know that Oregon was founded as an all-white state.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And like how you're saying you have to teach your kids about, the reality of
Stuff
wanting
you
to.
never had to deal with as a child yourself. You never had to walk in fear. And I mean, like you said it yourself, you have a child that is brown, and just letting that baby go to the store by themselves, worrying about if somebody gonna roll up and disrespect them as a child, or if somebody's gonna hurt them, or just create some kind of hostility in their life that you didn't prepare them for. That's the biggest burden, is that when do you start talking to them about these situations that create a certain obstacle in their life in regards to who they want to be or what they see as far as where they live at,
Yeah. Well, that's why even little stuff like what had triggered the song too is me and my son play with the Nerf guns, with the little foam darts, and we shoot targets and stuff. And these guns are like bright yellow and orange and what have you. But him and his friend wanted to go outside and play with them, and I wouldn't let him go in the front yard. I want to make him go in the backyard. And I said, I can't have you run around the neighborhood with the gun. Well, Dad, it don't look real, but I had to explain why. And it's kind of messed up that that's even a conversation I needed to have as an 8-year-old kid, that you couldn't run around with some Nerf guns because of the police. You know what I mean?
Yep, I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean. I couldn't even let my son, when he was a child, I never let him play with toy soldiers or anything. And when he started playing like Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that, he actually created games where they had to beat each other up and they couldn't beat each other to death. And he'd be like, Mom, look, I created a world where, me and my millionaire boys or billionaire boys or whatever. Like he got real big rankings to the point where they was, asking him to send in screenshots, but he created a world where you couldn't use violence to kill somebody.
Yeah.
So that he could play the games and still have that value that I needed him to have as a person, that I knew the world would be centering violence on him before he showed that was something he was about or not. They don't even get a decision in that matter. As a child, even, by the time they get the double digits, our anxiety as parents is, we know what the world is, and you can't tell them just be good, because they're not doing anything that would make an adult really feel like there's something going on, but the adult might see them and censor that kind of fear or hostility.
Well, even being good isn't going to protect them.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. That's a myth. It's like,
what
did you do wrong? And it's like, really? Was it worth capital punishment, like the brother running?
Oh yeah. That brings me.
Your sound. We can't hear you. Uh-oh.
He froze.
Yeah.
Oh,
you froze.
Oops.
You froze for a minute.
Oh, my bad. What I was gonna say was, speaking of the guy in Georgia that was shot, the men that shot him, the cowards that shot him, were it was in February. They didn't get locked up till just yesterday, I believe.
I know, 74 days later.
So I'm gonna tie this around to a question for you. So right now, I don't know if you're familiar, but my manager, his name's Portland George. He's a big business owner. He owns Mando's Food Carts. He does a bunch of things, and he is in jail right now and charged for second-degree murder. Now, he's been in jail for up to 3 months without any arraignment for any type of bail. He just had it on May 1st. The judge denied him bail, and there was no actual evidence, and they refused to give a reason why they denied bail. And this is a big thing right now. This dude is been even like, you understand, he was on the K-12 news, and they did a whole segment about him, how great of a business owner he was.
Y'all know Mondos?
Yeah. Second, he got arrested. That same news station called him a killer and said he was on the run for 10 years. How was he on the run when he was on your guys' program 6 months earlier? So
Yeah.
they dragged him through the mud. Now on May 1st, on the 1st, they did deny his bail and refused to give any reason, even though there was no evidence. So it's really hard for me to see a family member and a business partner of mine in jail to this day, and his court date's not even until 2021, by the way. Yeah, so they're gonna hold him in a cage for a whole year off no evidence and off of a hearsay, by the way. It's insane. But these dudes shoot someone in cold blood on camera, and it took an outrage, a cry outrage from all the public to even consider putting him in arresting these guys. So my point is, obviously, we can't do shit in Georgia, right? Politics.
Yeah, but we can do
handle
stuff
shit here.
locally.
Right. So for you, what do you have any plans or have any ideas where we could find a balance in the way we approach this kind of stuff? You know what I mean? Because to see someone that's such a great human being like Portland George, and to see how fast they put him in a cage over essentially nothing. Because what's going to happen, even according to his lawyer, when his case comes around in 2021, they're going to dismiss it due to lack of evidence. But my question is, who's going to be held responsible for him being in a cage for a year, for his businesses getting hit detrimentally for him being gone? You know what I mean? He has a wife and kids. Like, is anybody going to be held responsible? You know?
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so I don't know if you know my background, but I grew up in Portland. I grew up in our foster care system.
Yeah.
I watched my brother get in gang violence. My nephew got killed in gun violence. I started an organization called Don't Shoot Portland because I saw the inequities that weren't being dealt with as a response that we needed to deal with, rather than just dealing with the people. Like, why aren't you dealing with the underlying issues?
Yeah.
So when I saw that we were being overrepresented, but we didn't also have the equal legal representation, we didn't have the legal lobbying partners to say, hey, save our friend or get them out, or where is the access to justice? Like, we didn't have here in Portland justice movements for Black and brown people, period. Not dealing with mass incarceration, not dealing with displacement from our families, not dealing with gentrification, gun violence, none of that stuff. In every system and every legislative dollar, we were the problem. So the fact that Roe is locked up right now, that's because in our country, in this state, he's the problem. Until we say, look, until we say that they're not the problem, that's when they stop being the problem. The fact of the matter is that all of us have more power than the whole body of the government, because the government runs based on its ability to serve us. And so what I did in response to my nephew's death, knowing that there were all these intersectional inequities that were happening, and the response from the city was like, we just gonna go out there and lock up all the Black and brown kids. We're gonna stop them at the bus stops. We're gonna take their IDs. We're gonna do all this. And I was like, wait a minute. You're gonna violate other people's civil liberties because my nephew did, rather than investigating a crime. That's a problem. So I started an organization, and we have legal support. Like, you can literally right now tell George's wife to go to don'tshootpdx.org, fill out the legal intake form, and get access to a lawyer. Not only do we have access to the lawyers, but we even pay the stipends or the cost for the consultation or whatever, so that they don't have to worry about it. Because until we have that type of access to justice, we're going to be set up.
Yep.
I have lawyers that'll contact the court, show up and be like, oh, okay, I'm representing, let's lay this over till later. But at least you have somebody fighting for you. You got to have a civil rights attorney. You got to have a criminal justice attorney. But before any of that happens, you got to know your rights. You got to know when to say, I know what you're talking about, and I'm going to listen to this conversation, and I'm going to participate. Just don't say nothing.
Right.
From the time that they come and they say, well, we're suspecting you. Okay, thank you. I'm not saying anything. Am I being detained? Am I under arrest? Once you know that you're under arrest, you call somebody and you say, hey, get us an attorney, find legal support, because I don't know what they're talking about. And I'd rather talk to my attorney directly than have a conversation with these people, because the fact of the matter is that anything I say can and will be used against me. And everybody that's saying stuff about me on the news or on social media, that will definitely be used against me. So you might want to be my friend and say some stuff to stand up for me, but it might also harm me unless you're saying it to an attorney.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we have to start making that usual and customary in our community. When we film people, we film it, we submit it to an investigator, we contact somebody that can get legal support to the family.
Yep.
Because being outraged is not enough.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Sharing it on social media, that's not enough. That could kill somebody, because people retaliate when people are in those situations and they get anxious about their legitimacy in holding this person, or, you know, stopping them from having access to their family. Right now with COVID-19, there's so many excuses they can have for not allowing him to have access to his family, legal representation, a courtroom. But that's why it's important for people out here that are advocating for him to go ahead and do that line work. Like I'm running for office right now just so I don't have to kill myself trying, because we know the history of resistance in this country. When you're the person that people come to alleviate the trauma of being arrested and not having access to, what does this mean? How do I help myself? Where's the money? You get took out if you provide those services. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to make it a mandate where that is something that the city is going to procure. When my nephew died, and when all these other families that have lost their family members, not only from police violence, but also from just gang violence, community violence, gun violence, systemic violence, state violence, whatever. But every time I took them through the system that we currently have, that system was never set up to help us get legal access. It was always set up for us to give them our complaint. They would give it to the police to investigate, and then they would put it through this whole process where they would basically say, yeah, we investigated, we saw what was going on, nobody's at fault, and we can't help you. Right. And all the time that it takes for that to happen, you think you're getting access to justice. You actually think somebody's working on your behalf, but really your time of action, your limitations for getting that actual justice, getting in contact with federal agencies or the Department of Justice to stand up for your civil rights is running out. Yes. So it's just very important to me as somebody that is running for mayor to let people know that our affected communities, we will have legal support within the city. I'm not afraid of letting the city be accountable to looking out for the civil liberties of the people that live here and pay taxes. And that should be usual and customary, because we have all these inequities on the record.
Right. Yeah, it should be. I like that. Yeah.
It's gonna happen. We're winning. We're gonna take this. Like the reason we're here right now having these conversations is so we can build the dialogue that's going to take us into 2021. And what is the next 4 years going to look like? What exactly do we really want, and how empowered do we want to become in order to be the dynamic community that makes it happen?
Right.
It doesn't stop at the ballot. That's the beginning.
Right. Start. It's first position.
Yes. Steps.
Yeah, for real. And then and I was looking at your different campaign plans and stuff like that. Actually, Glenn Waco sent them over to me. Shout out Glenn if he's listening. But I like too about you looking to how you're gonna move the cannabis tax funds around and stuff like that. Because me personally, even growing up, DJ OG1, David Jackson, he's a Trailblazer DJ. He ran a program when I was a kid called Gang Peace. And that program kept me out of trouble. That program was super important and played a big role in me coming up and not getting caught up in the bullshit, caught up in all the stuff that was around me. Because we didn't have opportunity. We didn't have programs. We didn't have anything. So when school was out, all we had was influence that wasn't necessarily good. So Gang Peace essentially saved me from a lot, right? And so I maybe you can, emphasize on this, but I kind of took as the tax money from cannabis going to certain things similar to that, social programs and what have you, or maybe you can clarify on what your plans were.
Well, this is the thing. I have a big connection to the cannabis industry, not only because proprietor relationship, but because my son has seizures, right? He has grandma seizures. He has these cardiac arrests when he goes into the seizures, so he could lose his life at any time. And when I realized that we could legalize cannabis, like 8 years ago, I started standing up and making calls and everything else, because I believed in not only the medical need of it, but I also believed that the recreational dollars could help us spend money on some of the things that we needed, not only for people that depended on it for medical patients, but housing, education, jobs, getting rid of criminal background records and expenses that were debt related to incarceration motives and policies. And so that's not done. Like, I'm working right now with Madeline Martinez. I've been endorsed by Normal, Oregon Normal Women, and Madeline Martinez, Cascadia High, Tokativity, Miss Oregon. Dr. Rachel Knox is supporting our campaign, showing up in different forums, commenting on things that I'm saying, because the directives that we're moving to is empowering our community through those direct dollars. They're always talking about reparation, like, oh, we'll help you set up your own shop, or we'll teach the community about cannabis to destigmatize it. I want to use it for reconstruction of policy and mandates. I want to build housing with it. I want to build sidewalks with it. I want to provide legal services with it. You know what I'm saying?
There's definitely enough funds coming from cannabis.
Absolutely. It's a lot of money that's coming through. Even right now with COVID, that industry is still open for business. And they are like the people that grow it, the industry. Those are people that are care providers. They love the world. They love air, the climate. And to see that their dollars are not being invested in those situations, that harms them. It's like, am I really just a capitalist that I'm just going to expunge a couple of records and then we're done with all the criminalization of people before the legalization? No, they want it to be an investment in social change. And that's why they're supporting someone like myself, because once we are in that position, we get to mandate what that looks like. We get to build City Hall as a center for community engagement, so that we use the resources in the city to center those voices and to build out those mandates. And it's going to happen. Like, that's literally going to happen. I was at one event and I was like, yeah, y'all, we can do this because we got weed money. And then I was like, oh, shoot, like, calm down. But we do. Like, we took it from criminalizing it and stigmatizing it to now being able to rely on it for political power and for social investment.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe do people that nonviolent criminals who went to jail for weed possession prior to it becoming illegal in Portland, are they still incarcerated?
A lot of people are still incarcerated, because in Portland, when we put somebody in jail, we build cases around them so that we can mandate their incarceration. So if we say that you're an at-risk youth, or you're like racketeering, the fact that you might have went in for the weed, that's not the reason we got you. We got you because you was close to your cousin who was known as a violent offender because he beat somebody up in 5th grade.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Our situation is impossible to resist because it's connected to just your ability to be born in Portland and live in a certain zip code and be related to certain people. So the fact that you're smoking and then you get connected to the engagement with the officer, they're not literally arresting you for the weed. They're arresting you for something else that we have to pull apart. And that's another reason why it's so important to not only know your rights, but to pick leaders that want to dismantle those systems, not to just say, oh, in the future, we're going to do it better. I'm going to say that you provided me enough evidence, Portland, to show that you did some severe critical things to people that lived here. And we want to go ahead and build an administration that's going to undo that harm.
Right.
And the fact that the mayor not only has judiciary support and influence, but also the legislative influence, that means I get to go back and forth to Salem to speak on behalf to our state leaders. I mean, the impacts that we can make over the next 8 years are phenomenal, but we have to be intentional because we only got till the 19th to build in that system of force. What?
The 19th, y'all, you hear that? 19th.
The 19th.
Yes, 19th. Yeah, and I was gonna say, in a lot of her advocacy, part of what I'm also on the board of Don't Shoot Portland, and I help the nonprofit. But a lot of the programming we do is geared towards children. So a lot of, like, when we did the Know Your Rights training with kids, they made their own zine. We created a little army of illustrators and graphic designers out of like 5 to 8-year-olds. They learned how to screen print. They learned their rights, and they wrote little booklets and graphic novels on it. about how you don't have to speak to an officer if you don't want to. You know, you do have this right, et cetera, et cetera. And I just think I only bring it up because I know that you said you had a son.
We saw your
And-
illustrations. You're artists.
Yeah. I think it's important
Oh,
to,
you know
to not only teach kids about, like you said, you have to teach your kid about, being a police officer, but like doing it through art is very powerful to me. And she's been a big fan of art as well. So she's led that movement with kids and social justice and bridging the gap with it because, kids, they're like sponges, they're going to learn whatever you put in front of them. So we might as well give them something to really grasp onto.
Hey, I know my art stuff, so if you need me, let me know.
Yes, we do need you.
I just got this for one of my young rebels for Mother's Day. I was like, yeah, you could teach the kids. Look, that's dope, huh?
Yeah.
Like,
It's like a comic book, but it's all archival.
But it's basically like we can start making this. If we use art to center our productive unity and solidarity work, I think it's going to be like, we're going to have a dope future. Invest in the babies. I'm only doing this for them. I'm a grandma. I'm like, I need my babies and their mom is white. My son is black. So, I'm like, my babies look like you. My son keeps saying, they don't even look like me, mom. I'm like, I know, but you know what? Y'all, we good. We good.
We got to make sure everybody is aware of, the realities
we
of the
got to
world
make the
and
world better for them. They don't need to have to
Mhm.
worry about if they safe and based on their complexion and all that. The world should just be safe. That's where our investment should come from as parents, period.
Yeah. I agree. Oh yeah, Glenn said he didn't get a chance to ask you about global warming and stuff like that. So he asked me to bring that up.
Well, okay, so
I didn't have a question ready, so that's how I presented it.
he knows I'm an anti-capitalist, right? And so he was hitting me up the other day talking about like, Teressa, are you gonna mail out stuff? Are you gonna do this? What are you gonna do about billboards and all this other stuff? And I said, well, look, when I went to all those climate debates and we were talking about climate change and the environment, I was serious. I grew up in Portland. I am literally a tree hugger. And so because we have a network and a lot of community members that are supporting our campaign, I'm listening again to the lobbyists in the cannabis industry. They have the most money. They said that 78% of the people that vote for different measures and different electoral situations and politicians are getting that information directly from the people that are in their communities or their families or their networks. That those people are not using the things that are coming in the mail, right? And so when I was thinking about how do we deliver on the consciousness of our movement, we're saying that we want to be accessible, we want to be mobile, we want to effectively like reduce our footprint. Everything is digitized.
Right.
Like we're literally having these centered events so that we can communicate this information to people rather than spending money on the cost of the flyer, whatever lead is in some of the artwork that is used to make the flyer, the transportation involved to delivering the flyer, all of those costs in a COVID world. Like at first it was dependent on how much money do we have and how can we effectively bridge the fact that we made like 14 videos instead of sending out all these costly flyers. But now with COVID, it only makes sense. And the thing about our campaign is we're happy because for every dollar we could have spent on those flyers, we got to spend time with community. We didn't have to wait until we raised enough money to get them our information. We were out there in their houses and in their neighborhoods and in their coffee shops and libraries, sitting in the park during the concerts last summer and everything else. So we've been with the community. We didn't have to spend unnecessary money to pollute the earth and build a carbon footprint that is against our values in order to get the word out. And so that's again why it's an honor to have you here, because we're determined to create that way. A couple of years ago when Charlie Hills ran for office, it took millions of dollars for them to run the mayoral race, right? This year, it is not taking millions of dollars. Like we literally are anti-capitalist running the game our way and everybody else is having to adhere to it anyway. Even if it wasn't COVID, the fact that engagement with community was the necessity to be elected here, that's a big deal. And you're a part of that. I'm like, we really are literally making this happen right now as we speak. So
one other question I did have was, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that there's a lot of vacant houses in Portland, vacant units. and we do have a homeless issue as well. What is it? Two questions. What is it that's standing in the way currently of allowing us to utilize those vacant homes,
The
and what can we do to change it?
Yeah. So when we talk about racketeering, and we talk about it in the gang sense, we talk about proximity to, actual criminal violence, or, we might think it might be criminal violence. So we have to investigate them and interrogate them to figure it out. But in the city of Portland, we literally know that we have contracts with developers and community partners and businesses that helped us build up all of these different additional housing units. And a lot of them are already furnished. And a lot of people through relationships statewide are benefiting because of the travel and that exclusive opportunity to spend time in Portland and utilize our resources. The fact that we're not investing that money back into housing here locally, the fact that they're making profits, and that even agencies like, Oregon Travel are making profits from bringing people in to those empty units to spend weekends here, and we have people sleeping outside of them. To me, that's disingenuous.
Right.
Like when you have a housing crisis, you cannot build housing on top of those bodies and then invite people into your city to engage in entertainment. That means that the delivery of values from that leader is skewed, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so at this point, we get to elect a new leader. And again, one of the biggest things that I've been known for is demanding accountability and transparency.
Good.
Like yourself, I want to go in and basically run an audit on these bureaus and these contracts and the negotiations we have with people that are facilitating those type of practices. What should we build as a standard in the city of Portland to procure housing first, for people first, before profit?
Right.
Like we literally have to come to a consensus on that, because the people, we work for you.
So you're basically, are you saying that there's no actual policy or law standing in the way? It's more just business.
It's business. Everything is business. The city of Portland is incorporated. It's a company.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So our business is to build economic opportunities, but the fact of the matter is that people pay taxes.
Right.
People actually live here. So the government and the state is supposed to look out for the people. Your civil liberties matter. The whole democracy system is supposed to affect things that are necessary for you to have livability while we're doing business.
Right.
The fact that you're not at the table while we're doing business, and the fact that you're being harmed while we're doing business, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm always saying it's important to make this less intimidating. Like,
Right.
even right now, I might be saying stuff that some of the listeners might not even understand. They're like, well, she just not even, really answering the question. That's because it's called bureaucracy. They don't answer questions. You just literally want them to do something to help you, but they want you to figure out what that looks like. That's why we need change.
Yep. Nice. Real.
Did I answer your question?
No, you did. Thank you.
Thank you. That's how it's going.
Well, I was just gonna say we have Dear Rose
Okay.
still. If
Oh,
we want to get into that, I mean, we're gonna stop at 4:30. So
Dear
if we want to,
Rose?
if we want to wrap up anything beforehand, then we can I'll share my screen and let it fade out with the music video. Do you want to tell us about the music video? And
Oh yeah, for sure. So Dear Rose is one of my favorite songs I've done. It's basically giving props to all the Portland artists. Not all, but I did name about 40 people in Portland.
that's a lot.
Yeah. I did miss some names. But a lot of people that are doing their things. I felt like in the music industry, the Northwest in general is untapped and underrated. As far as the music industry is concerned worldwide. We're not looked at all, basically. And I feel like if I can speak on people's achievements for them, it would have a bigger impact and maybe draw some attention, because there's some people here, artists here, that are doing amazing things, and it doesn't get any light shine on it at all. And so I just dedicated this whole record to just point that out, how proud I was of the city and all that. So that's all it is. It's a dedication to the city, the musicians in the city. So
that's dope. I was gonna say before I moved back out here, because my nephew, he got killed. My nephew Andre Dupree Payton got killed at the Barracuda nightclub. Going to see a rap show. He had been wanting to go there, and he had asked my brother if he could wear his shoes, and then he snuck the shoes out, wore his J's there. but he ended up not being able to come home, and I ended up becoming an activist because of it. But he used to grind on me. He used to like hit me up on Facebook. He used to be like, Auntie, my friend, you don't understand. Cause I lived in Texas at the time and we were doing like global tours for like Kanye West. I was doing all these like after what was that? Glow in the Dark. Yeah, the Glow in the Dark tour. We did like 36 countries of after parties and ended up winning like these advertisement awards for the way we promoted it. So he was like, dang, I'm seeing what you're doing, Auntie. You like all over the place with, MySpace at the time and just popping up on Facebook and Twitter. But when I came home and then he got killed when I came to visit and I never got to see him. Like every time I would want to see him, he'd be like, oh, okay, well, I got to get a ride over there. And I'd be like, like, why doesn't he just catch the bus over here? But I didn't know how bad everything was, right? I didn't know he wasn't communicating that people wanted to hurt him. So when he went to the show that night, it was like a couple of days after my birthday, and it broke my heart because I knew he was trying to connect with me on this issue. You know what I'm saying? So again, I just wanted to thank you for the work that you're doing. I know that we have a lot of brilliant community members, a lot of talent in this city. I grew up here. I'm who I am because of Portland. One of the hashtags that we use in our campaign, my daughter's like, Mom, you better not cry. It's called We Are the Roses, though, because I'm like, we are the roses, and that's Pac, like letting and uplifting people that have been beat down. And so just thank you so much, thank you. I knew I wasn't gonna make it without crying.
I know, she's like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm her manager, so
y'all shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to work this hard for you.
To be fair, I got you twice so far.
Yeah, I'm
First
just
time
sorry.
too.
right. That's what I'm saying. This is a daily occurrence. But yeah,
I'm thankful. That's why, because we can.
My pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely.
And you know what? This is why, and I was saying earlier before we got on the call, like I'm not a political I vote because I know we have the right. But it means a lot when someone genuinely cares, because it's all such a hustle when you really get into politics and you see why certain bureaus are not offering direct services, and it's all waiting on lists and referrals and collecting more data, collecting more information, and then you might get in trouble because your uncle has a past and you have a past, but you live in the same area or the same home, and just so many different things that they build obstacles on top of obstacles. And because of that, because of that, in her background in community organizing, she has she's so emotionally connected to the issues that I make fun of her when she's crying.
I can tell and I respect it.
Yeah, I respect it, but I be making fun of her. Keep it light. Keep it light. This is a concert. I'm gonna buy her a drink at the bar later, maybe.
Look, I'm running. Look, you do understand that once I'm elected, I'll be the police commissioner, right?
Good.
And that's a big, it's a big responsibility. So that's the reason that I'm crying is because what you're saying is affirmation of what's going on. We're not anti anything. We're pro community. Exactly. We want people to feel safe. We want everybody to feel like Portland belongs to them and it's a place where we can thrive. It's not nothing negative. And so just you being a dad and being able to share your work and your art and being here. Oh my God. I'm messing up the whole.
So we're gonna play the next thing. Let me share my screen. It might look a little crazy at first.
Okay.
Because this is the back end. Y'all see my screen? Do y'all see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let me get into this video. Thank you so much for being here, Zito. I really appreciate it, and I know she does too. So thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Get this wide screen. How do I get this wide screen? Hold on. How do I get this wide screen? I gotta get this to be a wide screen. No, but I want it to be a wide screen. Where's the? Okay, there we go. All right. Thank you, everyone, again, especially for being patient. Thank you, Zito, for sharing. Thank you, Andrew. Teressa for mayor, please, if you'd like to learn more about the campaign. Thank you.
I ain't really no crybaby. All right.
This my own non-drizzy flow. I sit back and I'm watching my whole city grow. Yeah, I love it like double tapping your video. We clapping in the summer, but I still know my city though. Portland about to hit this game with a heavy wave. Went from Rose in the motor center, been on every stage. We here to elevate, stay out the fucking way. Shout to Cool Nuts for all the paths he already paid. Walking to Alberta for some fried chicken. Just some young dudes with a fly vision. And when I cross seas, I keep Portland on my back. That's a heavy burden many of us try lifting. Nobody handed us shit. Just a dream with a plan to get rich. Yeah. Nothing says Portland more when you see Portland George stay dripped in black mannequin fits.
A lot of things change around here. I'm just trying to make a change around here. Don't it feel better when you know they really fuck with you? So when you make it out the struggle, they can come with you. A lot of things change around here. I'm just trying to make a way around here. Don't it feel better when you know they really fuck with you? So when you make it out the struggle, they can come with you now.
I got you tatted on my body so you know it's real. Used to hold the steel, hitting licks so I could hold a meal. Acting like we mafia. Bitches moving product through Exotica. That money got us dead, the feds locked us up. But now I'm grown with a new perception. My life hit an intersection, so I had to choose a new direction. I've been rapping since knee high. Now I got a Cali co-signing, doing big shows with T.I. Juma been my day one. Young been my day one. Vocab, Nora Ish, Leak, you my day one. Best believe my team eating when that day come. You could tell by the way I grind, the streets raised them. Non-stop making platinum records, we just getting started. Carolina top the charts, we just getting started. Fat boy lost the weight now, spinning for a crowd of 40,000. I'm so proud, boy, don't get me started.
Change around here. I'm just trying to make a change around here. Don't it feel better when you know they really fuck with you? So when you make it out the struggle, they can come. Because a lot of things change around here. I'm just trying to make a way around here. Don't it feel better when you know they really fuck with you? So when you make it out the struggle, they can come with you now.
No more crabs in a bucket, that shit gotta go. Stop fighting for crumbs, you know it's getting old. Mighty rep the upper left to the death. He got kids laced up for school, nothing but respect. I'm giving y'all the real, I don't fuck with gimmicks. Young Mill was repping out in NY. Ask Russell Simmons. Fuck limits, that's just how we living. SOXO been killing this shit since he been out of prison. Ill Mac battle rapped around the world of bat. We underdogs in this region, yeah, that's been a fact. Jay Lava spit crack like he invented rap. John Bell spit crack like he invented rap. Mike Capes, really one of the greats. No debate, even though it feels we running in place. Issa been repping Rip City out in Senegal. Rock tours with Akon, told y'all he been a ball.
I'm just trying to make a change around here. Don't it feel better when you know they really fuck with you? So when you make it out the struggle, they can come. Because a lot of things change around here. I'm just trying to make a way around here. Don't it feel better when you know they really fuck with you? So when you make it out the struggle, they can come with you now.
OG1, Portland wouldn't be the same without you. What up, Quiz? Portland wouldn't be the same without you. Chris Lee, T-Spoon, and Dre Steves. What up, Mikey V? Portland wouldn't be the same without you. Rashid Jamal, Mookie, and Fly Mo. What up, Glenn Waco? Portland wouldn't be the same without you. Shout out Six. What up, Delgado? Smurf Luciano, Portland wouldn't be the same without you. Mike Bars making waves, Lord Lawrence, kill the stage, Packet Brown, Portland wouldn't be the same without you. What up, Casso? Shout out Tyus. What up, Pilot? Portland wouldn't be the same without you. Easy McCoy, King Zulu, and Mac Millie. Shout out Swiggle, Portland wouldn't be the same without you. Never let them doubt you. Rest in peace, Star Child. Portland ain't the same without you.
Yes. That's an anthem.
That is an anthem. That's an anthem. Thank you so much. Yes. Keep putting out like everything, please. Where's the next?
Thank you for that Star Child shout out. Like wow. You dope.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Oops, can we hear?
I'm messing
Can
up
y'all
the
hear
sound
us?
again.
I can hear you. Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Sorry, baby T over here. I usually got bars. You better ask somebody. I'm gonna be a rapper one of these days too.
But yeah, thank you so much again. That was beautiful. Thank you for engaging with us today.
Yeah.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
It's all gas, no brakes.
Oh, guys, no breaks.
Yep. Anytime you guys need me on something, just let me know, okay?
Thank you.
Absolutely. And like we talked about the illustrations, like that was dope. Yeah, we saw a little bit of that. I'm like, you're not making a big deal out of this? I mean, professional, like on point, very
Yeah.
good stuff. Like
I actually got a illustrator that colors for comic books hit me up and wants to digitally color them for me. So we
Oh,
might-
that's
we
so
might
dope.
do something. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll have to
throw
hit you
something
up.
together for us for election night.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We'll
we might-
talk about it.
Let me know. Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Portland.
Yes, thank you.